Good evening, South Windsor, and welcome to the South Windsor Town Council regular meeting of Monday, November 21st at 7 p.m. Like the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans?
Here.
Councillor Kaboski?
Here.
Councillor Lopez?
Here.
Councillor Paterna?
Here.
Mayor Pendleton?
Present.
Deputy Mayor King?
Here.
Councillor Kozakowski?
Here.
Councillor Leidecker? Here. Councillor Gamble?
Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, which is the mayor's remarks. Excuse me, this evening I'm going to start here in my seat, but I'm going to move over to the lectern shortly. So I'd like to say good evening, South Windsor. I'd like to take this opportunity to mention a few things before I begin. My comments tonight come with 2 warnings. Now that's a scary thought. The mayor has given us warnings before she speaks. Think about that one for a second. Trust me, there's no reason to be nervous. It won't be that bad. Are you ready? Warning number 1. In all the years that I've been on the town council, I don't ever recall a mayor taking the time to say or do what I'm about to say or do. So some could say it could be considered a little unconventional. But that's okay, because unconventional is a good thing sometimes in certain circumstances. Okay, now for the second warning, brace yourselves. Warning number 2. I know I'm known for having shorter meetings that we've had in the past with the past councils, which by the way is greatly appreciated by many. We're still able to accomplish this task. We are still able to accomplish the task at hand and get the job done. This council is amazing. Unfortunately tonight, I might not live up to the shorter meeting expectation. And I ask that you please indulge me a moment of your time and bear with me, because this meeting may run a little longer than usual due to everything that I have to say, and I truly hope you won't be disappointed. So with that said, I would like to begin. Since this is a season of Thanksgiving, and words of gratitude and appreciation are very appropriate and go a long way, a simple thank you or I appreciate you could positively affect someone's life and brighten their day. And the best part of saying these simple words, it doesn't cost anything and can be said all year round, just not now. This council and myself as your mayor have been in position for 1 year. So on the celebrate of the 1-year anniversary, I would like to take this opportunity to relay my heartfelt words of gratitude and appreciation to so many people that provide services to our residents and businesses in our community on a daily basis. I'd like to reflect upon the past year and the accomplishments that we've achieved as a council, working with town staff, or collaborating with the Board of Education. I would also like to point out the various highlights of each of our departments, a year in review, if you will. I'd like to begin by calling up the Vice Chair of the Board of Education, Jessica Waterhouse. Thank you, Jessica, for being here tonight in place of our chair, Craig Zimmerman. Jessica, all too often, the Board of Education only interacts with the town council when it's concerning money. That's it. I don't have $1 million to give Craig that he asked for. Sorry. Well, tonight, you're here for a special reason. It has nothing to do with money. This is a free gift, if you will. I'd like to thank you and all the elected officials on the Board of Education for their dedication to South Windsor's children by volunteering and giving of their time, energy, and effort. Thank you to the Board of Education staff, from the custodians to the superintendent and everyone in between, who faithfully and dutifully show up to their jobs and positively affect our children's lives. Most importantly, thank you for working collaboratively with the town council and town staff to achieve and meet the new school's needs. Please take my words of gratitude back to the staff and pass it along to everyone involved in our school system. Keep up the great job of educating our children. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to, keep smiling, Merrick, okay. Now I'd like to address our town staff and their departments. I feel it's very important to acknowledge and praise the employees of our municipality for the many hours, ideas, and hard work they put in for the betterment of our whole community. I have a listing in front of me with some of the highlights each department accomplished over the past year in many major projects that were completed. Since Mr. Maniscalco is the town manager and CEO of our town, I'm going to ask him to read this listing that was provided by his staff, pointing out various highlights or accomplishments for each department. Mr. Maniscalco?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I will run through each of these departments and the information that they've provided. In terms of the building department, the opening of Costco on a very fast-track schedule. The department also had personnel changes and was able to keep up with all the permits and inspections that were required. In terms of the engineering department, the Main Street Bridge was a huge challenge, but once the permits and approvals were realized, the project was completed in nearly 6 months. That's 2 months earlier than scheduled, and the project was also completed $70,000 under budget. Buckland Road was milled and paved in less than a month, limiting impacts to the surrounding businesses. This project was also completed ahead of schedule and within budget. In terms of the finance department, during the 2021-2022 fiscal year, the finance department accomplished. The assessor's office compiled this and submitted the 10-1-21 grand list on time to OPM, recording a growth of 2.91% or $3.2 million estimated additional revenue. The collector of revenue attained a collection rate of 99.5% and held a tax sale which exceeded prior year and interest budgeted revenues by $2.6 million. The finance office completed the town's budget June 30th, 2021, delivered the audit on time to OPM, and received an annual comprehensive financial report award designation from the GFOA for the 4th time. Each of these above factors contributed favorably to the upgrade of our bonding rating to a AAA rating by Standard & Poor's, something we've been working on for many years and finally achieved. In terms of the Fire Marshal's office, they performed a successful townwide disaster tabletop exercise conducted by Texas A&M Engineering Extension Services. All the town departments participated, creating a great team-building event with after-action items to work on. Also, the construction of Veterans Memorial Park Communication Tower and communication infrastructure upgrades. All the preliminary work, planning, and ordering for communication infrastructure updates on the Sand Hill Tower were completed. In terms of the fire department, placing the new support vehicle FP9 in service, as well as increasing our support company, Company 6 membership. Additionally, the placing of the new heavy-duty rescue truck in service. In terms of fleet services, they implemented a new hook lift approach to overall fleet, resulting in the creation of multi-use trucks. The trucks can be a flatbed truck, a dump truck, a salt sander, a leaf box, or a water truck, creating flexibility, efficiencies, and improving safety for our staff. Fleet Services also enhanced their vehicle preservation program, undercoating several trucks to prevent the spread of corrosion, and in turn will also make the mechanics' jobs easier because they won't be struggling with rusty stuck bolts or premature wear of parts. In terms of the health department, they applied for and received a second enhanced laboratory capacity grant from the Department of Public Health to support additional staff. This additional staff completed a comprehensive community health needs assessment of our town, which resulted in setting the health education priorities and guides, future health department programming for this department and South Windsor. This report details many aspects of health in South Windsor that are otherwise not captured, and the report is available to view on our town's website. In terms of human resources, they've performed many interviews throughout the year due to personnel changes in various departments, making sure our departments are fully staffed. HR was also instrumental in union contract negotiations with multiple collective bargaining units, resulting in positive outcomes for the staff and town. Human Services Department is using ARPA funds to provide behavioral health services for youth and adults, including one-on-one therapy, groups, and bereavement groups. South Windsor was the first town in the area to provide this, starting in October of 2021, by increasing current part-time youth counselors, hiring additional staff, as well as contracting with intercommunity healthcare to provide services. This is a direct response of seeing the increased need because of COVID-19 and the state of the world. Human Services has also been able to respond to the financial needs of residents affected by the COVID-19 pandemic by using ARPA funds to assist residents with their bills while they struggle to make ends meet. These funds are in addition to the Fuel Bank, Food Bank, and Special Needs Funds, which are all private donations from the community. In terms of the IT department, the largest project that the Information Technologies Department completed during fiscal year 21-22 was migrating our on-premises email system to cloud-based O365. This involved closely coordinating with outside technical resources. They completed this project in a timely fashion. As a result, our email is now accessible from anywhere there is reliable internet connectivity, enabling us to remain in touch from anywhere in the world. Another major accomplishment was the migration of all users to a new multi-factor authentication application. The new application is easier to manage, and we greatly improved our network security. In terms of Parks and Recreation, after a year of planning, challenges, and thinking out of the box, the Park and Recreation completed the much-anticipated pickleball courts at Rye Street Park. The outdoor facility opened for our community on October 24th. The department is very excited to offer this recreation space to continue the growth of the sport. The Parks and Recreation Department also had a very successful second season with the Farmers Market. The market ran from May through October and had an average of 1,300 community members attend each Saturday. The department implemented improvements to the market, resulting in nearly doubling our local vendors and providing healthier food options and local business shopping opportunities to our community. In terms of the Planning Department, in response to challenges in legislation, the Planning Department worked with the Planning and Zoning Commission to create new regulations to streamline the creation of accessory apartments in town. With the change to our zoning regulations, it is now easier for residents to create accessory apartments while still allowing the Planning and Zoning Commission requirements on size and ownership. This accomplishment aligns with the town's newly adopted affordable housing plan. Also, the planning staff have engaged the community on invasive species and management through in-person workshops and displays at Wood Memorial Library and through the ongoing development of the educational trail behind Town Hall. By providing educational opportunities to people of all ages, but especially young children, we hope this encourages more people to get outdoors and to further learn about invasive species while raising awareness on how to manage these species in their own backyards. In terms of the police department, the dominant theme at the police department over the last year has been that of change. We have seen changes to our facility, our practices, and our personnel. The process of encountering and embracing these changes without interrupting our services to the community translates directly to and defines our accomplishments. As we continue to navigate the waters of change, we often rely on our long-standing mission statement to steer and guide us. This past year, 2 tenets of our mission statement under the significant accomplishments were made are keeping the department modern and responsive to the public's needs. The biggest accomplishment in the arena of modernity has been upgrades made to our police facility and infrastructure. Most noticeable is the perimeter fence that was installed with automated gates and provides site security that protects critical town infrastructure such as vehicles, radio towers, communication equipment sheds, and fuel storage tanks. Less noticeable, but no less important, is the renovation and expansion of the women's locker room, which has created a ripple effect of renovation and repurposing of areas adjacent to the locker room. This project is modernizing our facility and making it more conducive to our modern workforce. In the area of responsive to the public's needs, the department continued to embrace the changes called for by this era of police reform, and department officially applied for accreditation. This application marks a milestone in our agency's demonstration that we are employing nationally recognized best practices with modern policies and standards. Tangential to the accreditation process are several initiatives that we started locally. For instance, an internal fair and unbiased policing work group here at the police department was developed. The members of this group volunteered for this assignment. They met monthly to discuss, review, and address a variety of discussion points, topics, and trends. This work group has done excellent work and already brought to the surface changes in practice that can better serve South Windsor and ensure that the police department continues to provide a public safety product that is fair and professional. Proudly, the chief reports that neither renovation nor reform have disrupted our ability to answer approximately 30,000 calls for service in the last year. Police personnel have saved lives, solved crimes, assisted victims, and connected with the community with a very high degree of success and will continue to do so for years to come. Our Public Buildings Division removed and replaced all carpeting on the first floor of the public library. Through Eversource's Small Business Energy Advantage program, we're able to upgrade the lighting inside the library building and received a substantial incentive for the upgrades. This change resulted in the energy use for lighting being cut in half. In terms of refuse and recycling, we diverted over 2,300 tons of material from our waste stream through the single stream textile, electronic, and scrap metal recycling programs. This saved $190,000 in municipal solid waste tipping fees. In terms of street services, the management group studied the snow removal program and determined that there was value to be found by acquiring additional plow trucks, allowing us to be able to transition away from hired plow contracted services. This would not only create more control of the quality of the plowing, but also create an estimated financial savings between $60,000 and $120,000, depending on the amount of snowfall. Street Services has also been finding more value with their operating budget, taking savings realized throughout the year to mill and fill known pothole problem areas in town. This year, the program milled and filled nearly 5,000 square yards of poor condition roadway at various locations in town, providing a better quality of ride for residents and saving time and money on repeatedly patching the same potholes annually. Street Services continues to collaborate with other divisions of the town with many other projects. Having the town staff perform these tasks on various projects as opposed to outsourcing results in a financial savings that are beneficial to the town's taxpayers. Examples of the town department collaborations are the fire marshal's office with installing electrical conduit for the cell phone tower, the police department installation of security gates at Vibert Road, water pollution control with plant improvements, and many, many more. And then lastly, in terms of my office, we've continued our economic development with respect to the revitalization of the promenade shops at Evergreen Walk 2.0. And we also negotiated the purchase and development of the Scantic River property to create a Scantic River Blue Way for our community members in the future. And then lastly, in terms of the Water Pollution Control Authority, they've installed UV disinfection, is under design and expected to be in construction within the next year at a cost of $1.2 million. This upgrade will further improve our disinfection processes, reduce our energy consumption, and improve our discharge. And Phase 4 sewer improvements was the last phase of the 2015 sanitary sewer evaluation study recommended improvements. The improvements included lining 40 pipe segments totaling 6,165 feet, which cost $1 million. The cost to dig replace piping is estimated to be $1.7 million, and we also rehabbed 28 manholes in various departments. This completes the list of various department highlights or accomplishments.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. I'll take it from here. Hang in there, we're almost done. As you have heard the many highlights or accomplishments from each department, please be aware it takes quality employees to make all this happen. I would like to say thank you to all the staff for these amazing highlights or accomplishments that were achieved this past year. Your collaboration with each other resulted in financial savings for the town. Your ability to think out of the box, creating new ways of doing business, resulting in new programs or cost savings to the town. Your ability to address the needs of South Windsor by creating regulations, opportunities to purchase healthy food, welcome a new sport, or providing much needed mental health services to our residents. Thank you for your forward thinking, improvements, educational opportunities, and financial savvy, resulting in savings for our taxpayers. Thank you to our first responders, including our dispatchers, for the continued protection and services provided to our community. Here in South Windsor, we're very fortunate to have creative, intelligent, exemplary employees who get the job done. We appreciate you and look forward to another great year. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our other staff that offer so many direct services to our community members in various ways on a daily basis. Our public library. I'd like to thank South Windsor Public Library for offering over 500 in-person programs along with a variety of programs virtually. They also ordered over 19,000 items for South Windsor residents from the libraries across the state and country through the interlibrary loan systems. Thank you, Mary, for making our residents, and they can still utilize the interlibrary loan system here in Connecticut. I'd like to acknowledge the Registrar of Voters, the South Windsor Registrar of Voters, for handling the task of informing nearly 900 voters of the new redistricting in town and where their new voting locations would be. They accomplished this by mailing letters in March, August, and October out to each of the impacted voters. The registrars of voters conducted two major elections this year, one being the Democratic and the Republican primaries that were held on August 9th, and the other being the gubernatorial elections that was held November 8th. All polling locations were staffed and ready for voter turnout. Our very own Democratic Registrar, Sue Larson, was awarded the Medallion Award from the National Secretaries of State for outstanding leadership as president of the Registrar of Voters Association during the 2020 presidential election. Congratulations, Sue. For our town clerk, the town clerk's office for being the records management and information center for the town. The Connecticut General Statutes and the town charter charge the staff with hundreds of functions. And here are only just a list of few. They record and report and maintain all our land records. They maintain all our birth, death, and marriage records for our residents, all those vital records. They issue copies of vital records, issue marriage licenses, dog license. They process notaries. They handle all the absentee ballots. They record and maintain election results, process and publish the town ordinances, accept lawsuits and claims for filing, and they implemented the department's public health new electronic death registration system in their office this year. Excuse me. And now last but far from least, our town council members. I'd like to point out this month we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary together. A year ago at our first meeting, we changed our seating arrangement to unify our ability to work well together. It seems to have worked. I also asked all council members to remember these 3 components while conducting our business meetings: self-respect, mutual respect, and decorum. This was also accomplished at every meeting. Again, I thank you. I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for your time, ideas, collaboration, and respect that we have shared together over the past year. It certainly has made our job much easier. You know, we're probably the most underappreciated people in our community because we're the ones that set the mill rate that ends up in a math equation that ends up in the tax bills. However, folks need to remember the tax bills is what helps to pay for the services that they receive in all those highlights and projects that were just mentioned above, and so much more. It also pays for the staff that completed those projects, the Board of Education staff who teach our children, along with the others that make South Windsor an amazing community to live in. We make a great team, and we have accomplished so much over this past year while maintaining transparency, listening to each other, listening to our citizens, and listening to our town manager. I look forward to working with all of you and the progress this council will achieve over the next year. We can accomplish even more exciting things by working together with continued support of our economic development and redevelopment, our infrastructure, budgets, capital improvements, first responders, schools, inclusivity, and a permanent home for our Park and Recreation Department. Again, I thank you. Now, I can't forget to recognize the many volunteers of our community, from the fire department to the American Legion and the other civic groups of our community, the volunteers on the boards, commissions, and committees who are all instrumental in making so many programs and events happen in our town. I thank you for that. In closing, I would like to say, this is the season of giving thanks. Gratitude is one of the many positive emotions one could have. It's about focusing on what's good in our lives and being thankful for the things that we have and saying so. Something we should be doing every day. Gratitude is pausing to notice and appreciate the things that we often take for granted, like having an amazing community to live in, created by so many people. And for that, I say a very heartfelt thank you to our military who are away from their families, protecting and serving our country, and to everyone who is involved in making South Windsor a great place to live, work, learn, and play each and every day. Thank you, and happy holidays. Sure, I mentioned.
Madam Mayor?
The town attorney, the town clerk, and clerk of council. Did I mention that? I
Not
didn't,
the
did I?
town attorney and clerk of council.
I
don't think you
didn't.
did, no.
Okay, that page is missing. Okay, I'm sorry. I had a page missing. There's two other employees that I'd like to mention that I didn't mention that we're missing, and that is our town attorney for jumping on board and supporting us in advising not only the council but also the town staff. And I'd also like to say a very thank you and a very gracious welcome and thank you to our clerk of the council, who is a direct impact to this council. And I'd like to say thank you for jumping on board, getting in there with all the many challenges that you're faced with, learning the job, and doing an excellent job at what you do. Thank you. Now I'm moving on. Oh, one more thing before I finish. We have many students here this evening, and I just want to let you know that you can go to our town website, and under G Media, you can rewatch this meeting if you feel that you need to get any notes from this meeting to help you with your school project. Thank you. Now moving on would be the adoption agenda. Councilor Lydecker, please.
I move to adopt the agenda as is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any changes to the agenda? Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our tax assessor, Mary Huda, is here this evening, I'd like to move her report up to, it's item 13A right now, move it up to just under the communications and reports from the town manager.
Is there a second on the change to the agenda? I'm sorry? Did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All those in favor of the change to the agenda? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. That change was accepted. And now we'd like to have a motion to accept the agenda as changed. Is there a motion? A motion? Okay, so moved. Yep. Second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Paterna and Councilor Lydecker. Item number 6 is communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think as all of you are aware, we've received a couple of communications regarding some daycare legislation. The state of Connecticut recently passed Public Act 2281, which allows municipalities to provide assessment deferrals to daycares within their communities by passing an ordinance. The abatement can be up to 5 years and up to 100% of the property's value. The town does not have a definitive listing of daycares within the community. That said, through information we've been able to obtain through the Department of Public Health and the Assessor's Office, we've been able to compile a listing of 23 daycare providers. If each were eligible for a 100% abatement, that would cost the town $204,525 a year, or $1,022,625 over the lifespan of the abatement agreement. There are a few variables that need to be taken into account if the council decides to move forward with an ordinance. There is not a very good definition of what entities are eligible in the statute, and as a result, we could potentially see small home-based daycares requesting deferrals, and we don't know how many of those entities there are within the town. To date, I'm only aware of one other town that has implemented this abatement, and it is a significantly smaller town, and there's been very little time since the implementation, so there's not a whole lot to learn from their experience yet. As we move forward over time, if there is interest on the council's part, if you want to reach out and let me know, that would be helpful, and we can try to put some type of a draft of something together for you if you're interested in looking at that. In terms of human services, with Thanksgiving only a few days away and the winter holiday season upon us, it's good to remember that the South Windsor Food Bank and its needs for this holiday season. Currently, the food bank is in need of kids' snacks, cereal and oatmeal, hearty soups and stews, tuna and canned chicken, jelly because they've got a large donation of peanut butter, rice packages, and pancake mix and syrup. To use the food bank, contact Human Services at 860-648-6361, extension 3335, and they will be directed to a caseworker to schedule an appointment. Proof of residency and income is required. Lastly, our road referendum funds. The town is very pleased with the passing of the Paving for Progress funding. An RFP for engineering and design services has already gone out. Over the coming months, we'll be developing the design and plan for how, when, and which roads will get paved. As that plan is fully fleshed out, we'll be developing a web page through our ClearGov system so that the public and the town council can follow along with the progress. And then lastly, under my report, not written, I want to turn things over to Mr. Roberts to talk to you a little bit about an emergency management presentation and video that he has that he'd like to share with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. My name is Scott Roberts. I'm the Assistant Town Manager Director of IT, and also oversee emergency management. And as part of this, we started to look at what Walter presented to you several months back, and one of the websites that he called out was called ready.gov. It's a great resource for everybody to prepare for emergency and understand, but it's kind of dry. It's a government website. So we thought, how can we spice this up a little bit? So with the creative help of the department, and I'd like to acknowledge our post-production team, Michael Lehman, our news anchor, Thad Walter Cronkite, and our primary anchor, Drew Last Minute Guiled. And we're gonna have a little video to show you what you need to do to be ready for an emergency and put together your own go bag so you don't get in a predicament like Drew got. So at this point in time, Michael will start the video. If the council would like to step back, we are gonna show it on the wall. It will be streamed as part of the presentation, so it'll be available on the internet and everything else later. That's your choice. Would anybody else like some popcorn? Do you have leftovers? Come on, they've got to be here. Somebody like popcorn. Here we go. There you go. One taker. All right. Here we go. One person comes out. Everybody comes out.
Good afternoon. I'm Thad Dimkowski with breaking news update from G Media. Hurricane Zill has dramatically altered course. Previously expected to head out to sea, Zill will now make landfall as a direct hit on Connecticut. The storm is expected to impact the state as a Category 3 hurricane around 4 p.m. this evening. The National Weather Service has recommended that Connecticut residents evacuate if they can leave within the hour. Otherwise, residents are being told to shelter in place. If you have a go bag ready, now is the time to grab it and evacuate. We'll continue to provide coverage as the situation develops.
Hello everyone, my name is Drew Giles with the South Windsor Department of Emergency Management. Hurricane Zill was forecast to head out to sea but turned inland at the last minute. The weather is getting worse and I'm not prepared. I really should have done this sooner. Whoa, the wind is really picking up. I'm packing my go bag that I can easily grab if forced to leave my home. All of you should have a go bag too in case of emergencies. It will have key items that will help you and your family stay safe as you head out your door. If I was prepared, I would already be on my way to safety. Now I'm losing valuable time that may be the difference between me being evacuated and me being stranded. First, I'll go over the primary items that you should have in your go bag. Next, I'll go over the items that have been added recently, some of which have been added in response to COVID-19. The most important items are water and food. You want to bring 1 gallon of water per person per day for drinking and sanitation, and several days' supply of non-perishable food. A battery-powered or hand-crank radio, flashlight, and extra batteries, and a first aid kit should be packed. A whistle to signal for help, and a dust mask to help filter contaminated air should also be added. You should also have plastic sheeting and duct tape that can be used if you need to shelter in place. Moist towelettes, garbage bags, and ties can be used for personal sanitation. Many non-perishable foods that you may grab for your bag are cans. Don't forget to bring a manual can opener in order to open your food. A wrench can also be handy, for example, to turn off utilities if necessary. If you are being forced to leave your home, you may not know what the road conditions will be like. There's a good chance that wires will be down and debris will be covering roadways. Be sure to bring local maps to help you navigate. It may be a challenge to find power sources, but you want to ensure you bring your cell phone and charging cable. Also, a charged power bank will be useful if you have one. That covers the primary list of items that you should have in your go bag. Like I said earlier, additional items have been recommended based on COVID-19, and it's suggested to add them based on your individual needs. For example, masks, hand sanitizer, and disinfecting wipes should go in your bag. Both prescription and non-prescription medication should be packed, along with eyeglasses, contacts, and contact solution. Due to potential power outages, you may not be able to use debit or credit cards or other methods like Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. You want to ensure you are bringing cash or traveler's checks with you. Put copies of important family documents like insurance policies, identification, and bank account records onto a flash drive. You may not need them immediately, but when it comes to the recovery, you'll want to ensure they're secure and accessible. You don't know where you will end up once you leave your home. Make sure you bring a warm blanket or sleeping bag for each individual. A change of clothes that is weather appropriate is also important. Matches in a waterproof container and a pencil and paper could come in handy. You don't know what kind of conditions you will be exposed to. Consider adding personal hygiene items to your bag. Water and food are at the top of the priority list. Do you have anything to help you eat and drink? You may want to bring a mess kit. If you have a pet, be sure to bring pet food and extra water. If you are traveling with children, be sure to bring extra diapers, wipes, and formula if you're traveling with an infant. Books, games, puzzles, and other activities for older children can be helpful. Whatever it is that you choose to pack, have it ready well in advance instead of waiting until last minute like me. All right, I'm ready to go. For additional resources and to review the two lists, please visit ready.gov. Stay safe and be ready, South Windsor.
That was fantastic. Thank you. Academy Awards. Thanks for thinking out of the box and becoming so creative. And now it's on our website for folks to see. And you refer them to ready.gov also. Thank you. The microphone, Mr. Roberts. Does anyone have any questions for the town manager or our wonderful actors that we have in our audience? No, oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor King.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah. I was waiting for you to be like, yo, stop with them leaves, dog. So, but that was phenomenal. The only thing I would suggest, just because people may not go to the website, Mr. Maniscalco, is there a way for us to send it out via text? I know that we had a huge humbub about that when we got so many, but that was awesome. And I think that that'll probably reach more people than saying, go here, as opposed to if everybody sees that at one point, especially, you know, if all of a sudden the snow hits or whatever.
Yeah, I do know the website's listed on the webpage, probably right where we're gonna post that video for everybody to watch, so it'll be right there on the webpage. We could look into maybe using our reverse 911 system to send like an email out, because I do know we could use email for that system as well, or text. Yeah, we'll send out some, so we could do that. Also, our hope is that over time we can do a couple others of these, so that way we could do a couple other things to some of the other issues that might come up, snow, flooding, whatever other items may occur, so.
That's great. Any other questions? Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. And thank you, Mr. Maniscalco and staff. In moving on now, we are now at 13A for our assessor, Ms. Mary Huda, please. Thanks for the popcorn, too.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and council members. At first, I was thrilled to be moved from 13A to just after the town manager's report. But since I do not have snacks nor an entertaining video, you just have me. However, I'm here to talk to you this evening and give an update on a very important project, the 2022 revaluation process for the town of South Windsor. But if you'll just beg me to take just a moment, I do want to give an update. The last time I was here in September, we spoke about the importance of the 2022 personal property declarations being filed, and that deadline has come and gone. It was November 1st. I just wanted to give you a couple of statistics and some information. So we have received, timely received, the majority of the personal property declarations. We do still have 82 new accounts to South Windsor this year that have not yet filed, and 381 existing accounts that haven't filed. So just to put it out there, if there's people watching the council meeting this evening, it is not too late. There are probably 20 to 25 accounts that have requested and been granted an extension. So those people have until December 15th to file. If you don't have an extension, we are going to still, unfortunately, by state statute, have to penalize the account, but we can penalize you based on the actual assets that you own if you file. If you don't file at all, and we get to the point where I have to finalize the grand list, I have to put an estimate on that account. and then calculate the penalty based on the estimate. So I would encourage everyone, there still is time. Reach out to staff, check out the website. There's a lot of resources there. So
Mary,
that's just
excuse
kind
me,
of a
I just,
PSA.
if you
Yes,
could
ma'am.
lead folks to how to get a hold of the assessor's office at this point for that.
You can email us at assessor@southwindsor.org, or you can call directly into the office at 860-644-2511, extension 2312. We'll get you to one of my staff members or myself.
Thank you.
So heading into the revaluation update. First and foremost, if you have not received a revaluation notice of assessment change, because we did receive some back in the mail, please contact my office, again, by that email or directly by phone. They did go out, they were processed by the mailing house on November 4th. This is for those of you watching the council. That's the copy of the notice. They did go out November 4th. I believe they hit mailboxes on Thursday, November 10th, right before the Veterans Day holiday. So if you haven't received anything yet, please reach out. We do have a PDF file of all the notices. We can email it to you. We can send it to an alternate address. What we find is sometimes people have their tax payments escrowed, so they don't realize that the mailing address that the town has on file isn't getting to their actual physical mailing address. On that note, I just want to say quickly before we get into the revaluation process, the town council and the town administration for the town of South Windsor over the past decades have created a much sought after dynamic community with excellent schools and outstanding services that people find desirable to move to. That, along with the rise in the real estate prices across the country, has created the local real estate market and the current revaluation conditions. You should be very proud of yourself. You've created a community that people are, having bidding wars to get into. So we just wanted to kind of share that with people, let them know that although the overall increase in the value of the town as South Windsor as a whole should be considered a benefit to those people that are selling property, to those with a home equity line of credit, or businesses that have a line of credit, and those that may have paid more for their property several years ago, they're now back to their original fair market value. I know everybody does not view an increase in their assessed value as good news, but it certainly does not have to be considered bad news for the town. I did leave for the council at each of their stations some information, and I'm certainly happy to walk you through all of those and then answer questions as things come up. I know one of the reasons that people always say, well, why do we have to do a revaluation? Why do we have to do it in this time frame? Why do we have to do it in 2022 when everybody knows that the real estate market in Connecticut, and certainly in South Windsor, is high? All Connecticut municipalities are required by state statute to reval. They reval all parcels within the town boundaries on a given 5-year cycle. October 1st, 2022 just happened to be South Windsor's time. It's been a project that's been in the works for the last 2 years, right? We're just kind of getting to the culmination of all of the work. But I do want to assure all residents and property owners that a complete revaluation of all the real estate within town results in the uniformity of real property valuations and secures a more equitable distribution of the property tax burden, right? That's why we do it. We want to make sure that everybody's paying their fair share, no more than their fair share and no less. It's also required by statute to ensure that the town continues to receive state funding. Okay, that's everything from pilot grants to ECS funding to any other programs that we get reimbursed for. So the state is keeping a very close eye on that and who's implementing and who's staying on schedule. Just one note, and some of you that may have done appraisal work recently on your own homes, the town and all Connecticut municipalities employ a mass appraisal methodology, right? So what we do is we take and we look at the entire town of South Windsor as a snapshot on October 1st of the revaluation year. So it's a little different than a fee simple where you'd be comparing one house to 3 others. This is a way to ensure that everything is valued as of the same time frame. I gave you a brief timeline in the packet of how we've gone about the revaluation. We've reviewed the sales, all the property sales that are arm's length transactions for the last 2 years. The initial set of data was done for the preliminary values and to do the field verification in the springtime, spring of 2021. From October 1st of 2021 to September 30th of 2022, those sales were verified and analyzed in order to create the mass appraisal model. And again, an important distinction is you have to have a fair market value is determined by a willing buyer and a willing seller, right? So we have to make sure that those are the only sales that are included in that model. If you have a bankruptcy sale or a foreclosure sale or something that happened at a tax sale, that's considered an auction sale, and that's not included in our data. October 1st, as we all know, is the assessment date. On November 4th, the assessment notices were mailed to all property owners. And from November 14th through about the final week, or the last week in November, early December, we're going to be holding informal hearings. And the staff and I have really been working with folks, any phone calls that we've gotten, any emails that we've received, to make sure that people know that that's available to them. Whether you agree with your value, you don't agree with your value, you think it's high, you think it's low, they're available to walk people through not only what we've done for our process, but to work with people and look at how they're assessed compared to the sales in South Windsor. From November to December, this is a grand list task, not necessarily a revaluation task, but it's going to work into the whole mill rate calculation as we move forward. November and December, we'll be processing and finalizing all the personal property declarations and applying those exemptions. In early December, December 5th, we'll receive the motor vehicle records from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we'll have to work with those and get everything priced and applied and exemptions. December 20th of this year is the target date for the adjustment letters. Anybody who's gone to an informal hearing and has, raised an issue with their property that the revaluation company or myself, we missed a 490 classification, or we missed a bedroom count, something in the data that we have to make an adjustment for, those final letters will go out before the end of December. January 26th is my personal goal to finalize all values for the grand list, which is, again, real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle. And then we'll sign the list on January 31st, which kind of gives the council their starting point for the budget process, right? Gives you the net value of the overall town properties, everything in town, so that you can start saying, hey, what are the expenses for the town? What do we need to be able to run the town for the next fiscal year? We've had a lot of phone calls. We've had concern from residents about what this new value is going to do to their tax rate. We're still in the valuation process at this point, right? We need to gather the town needs to gather the expenses, the council needs to review them. So it's really too early in the process to either project a mill rate, talk about what the mill rate could be, or talk about taxes for next year. I did, at the mayor's request, include a page about the information that's available on our website. We tried to put out some information so that folks could look at not only the sales, but the process that we went through. So what I'd ask everyone to do, if they're out in the audience this evening and they still have questions, is just to go to the town's website at www.southwindsor.org, go to the department page, go to our page, which is the assessors, and right on the left-hand side, you're going to see a tab that says the 2022 revaluation. If you click on that tab, it's going to give you access to the Vision Government Solutions website, which is our online database that we use throughout every year, not just the revaluation year. It has a listing of every property, its current value, and its prior values. It also allows you to do a search, either by owner name or by street address. You could bring up everybody on your street, kind of look and see where you fall within that. We also have a GIS map that shows all the residential sales data for the last year. In addition to that, there is a brochure that my staff and I have put together over the last couple of years that kind of walks everybody through the process, where we are in the process as of November 22, and where we'll be going in the next few months. We did have a number of taxpayer questions that have come in over the course of the last few days. And what I did do for the council was put together just some numbers about average change or average increase, right? And I've broken those down for you by residential properties, also commercial and industrial, and then within the residential properties by house style. So the overall residential increase was 33%. Right? Now, that's not saying that everybody sitting here had their assessment increased by 33%, but that was the average. Certainly within that, we counted not only the condominium units that went up 40% on average, or the planned unit development properties that went up on average 27%. So the overall town, if you figure in commercial industrial at about 11% and the exempt parcels at 14, the town overall, the grand list, net grand list real estate value is going to increase about 26%. That's prior to adjustments that we're doing currently, but that would be before adjustments by the Board of Assessment Appeals. That's kind of my spiel in a nutshell. I said no snacks, no video, but I certainly will answer questions.
Thank you, Mary. I'd just like to point out that it's South Windsor, townofsouthwindsor.gov is our website for them to get to you, to the
Yes,
assessors.
you are correct.
Okay. Does any council members have any questions for Mary? This is great for you to come and explain this, and I appreciate you
Absolutely.
taking the time to explain what the assessment means and how it affects folks. Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a few questions. So, I mean, you hear property values go up 30%. That's kind of a sticker shock. And I understand it's too early to truly say what the number is going to be, how taxes are going to be affected. If it is a higher burden than some may be expecting, what is the wiggle room in this revaluation process to kind of roll out that tax increase? Is there the ability to say, if your tax is going to increase by $1,000, you know, there's a way that we can kind of roll it out, this amount in the first year, this amount in the second year, this amount in the third year? Like, do we have the ability under these statutes to kind of ease the burden over time?
Not for taxes, no. But for assessment purposes, there is a municipal local option that the council would have to read through and probably have the town attorney weigh in on, because I read through it 3 or 4 times, and quite honestly, we're gonna need some help. There is a municipal local option for a phase-in of the revaluation values. And I can certainly provide that to Mr. Maniscalco, and he can send it out to the council so that you can kind of have that discussion or start having those conversations. But it is, I think, still a little bit early for that, but there is that option. You're welcome.
And then with regards to, you mentioned that the increase was kind of based on sales that have occurred in the last 2 years. Is it solely that? So like every colonial that sold in the town went X amount higher than before, was selling for X amount? Like, can you just explain to me what the factors go in? I mean, I've seen appraisals before, but I don't quite understand all the different components. So can you just delineate a little bit more?
Sure. And let me just clarify. While we reviewed 2 years' worth of sales, the current values are actually only based on the last year. So October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022, because that's the allowance that the state gives us. And it was just under 500 sales, if I recall correctly, that made up the mass appraisal model. So what's interesting about mass appraisal is you take all of the data for each of the properties, and it's different than fee simple where you would look at, say, your house, Councilor Lydecker, and then come up with 2 or 3 comps to that. We have to take all the properties and run them through these models and create the values at the end, right? So if the data on your property is correct, and we've done a proper job of analyzing the sales and creating the mass appraisal model, the values should be correct.
So what is this mass appraisal model that you're saying it gets run through?
It's based on all of the South Windsor sales that we analyzed and implemented. So you're only going to use a colonial to value another colonial. You're going to use a ranch to value another ranch. You're not going to mix those styles.
Okay.
Okay. So it's based on local data. Okay, I think is important for people to know. It's based on the last year of local data, and it's based on the components of your house, right? So the things that affect value, kind of the primary characteristics are the size, the age, the original quality of construction, and the current condition, right? So there's depreciation in there. I mean, it's a very, it sounds simple, but it's a very lengthy process to make sure that you've got that model correct and you've got it calibrated correctly.
And if I may ask just one more question, do we know, So not every town is doing this year, so each
Correct.
town is on their own schedule. Do we know, like, the towns surrounding us, essentially, if they've done this within the last 2 years, is our increase kind of comparative to what theirs are? Did Vernon maybe increase 30% or Ellington 25%? Like, do we have any way of comparing that?
So I know East Windsor is doing a reevaluation right now. I know New Britain just released their notices, not that they're an abutting community or similar, but I did hear on the news, Mayor Stewart talking about they had an upwards of 50% increase in their value. But it really depends on where their town was for their base year, right? Where you were in 2017. So all of that changes from within municipalities. I do know that Manchester did a reevaluation last year, and their values increased similarly to ours, and their mill rate did have a decrease.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your questions.
Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mary, for coming in tonight. Appreciate the information. I think I have two questions. On the second page or third page, the schedule of dates, October 1st, November 4th, when all the mailings are done. Is that the same schedule for any town that's doing revaluation this year?
The October 1st date is the same. I, as an assessor, like to get the notices out early.
Right.
To give people time to go through, to adequately have time to go through the informal hearing process, to call my office, to speak with me, to speak with my staff. I think we're usually a little earlier than some towns.
Okay.
I know Granby just sent their notices out the beginning of last week. New Britain, theirs went out, I think, Wednesday or Thursday, because that's where I saw it on the news. So it's really up to each individual project manager from the revaluation and each individual assessor. I don't like to rush. I don't like to make mistakes because we're, trying to get the end goal of the grand list done. I like to get it out early. I like to give people some time to kind of digest, to look at the resources, to look at sales, if that's their inclination. So we may be a little earlier. I know there was a question about the timing of the notices in terms of election day. There is state statute that garners the, when the notices have to be out, but it's very broad. It's anytime after October 1st and anytime you have to be out before February 10th, which is 10 days after you sign the grant list, if you sign in January. Well, that obviously doesn't apply in a reval year because you wouldn't give anybody the chance to ask any questions if you did that.
Yes.
So while it's typically always mid-November, I always try to aim for early to mid-November.
Okay, all right. But we're pretty much in the same ballpark with other towns, even though there may be a week here or
we're
there.
within a week or
Okay.
two of the majority of towns that are revaling this year.
Okay, and then the second one is looking at the chart. That's the last page of your report. First of all, it's important to know this has been going on for 30 years or plus or more. So this is not something this council voted on to do revaluation. This is a
No,
state
no, it
statute
is
that
not.
says you must do this. But what's interesting to me, if I'm reading the chart right, and I want to make sure it's clear to me and to people who may go to the website, each of the years that you picked out for the revaluation, it looks to me like the mill rate came down each year, even if the reval went up. Am I reading that right?
So the mill rate decreased in all the years, but for when we went from 2011 to 2012, right?
Right.
So there's been as much as a 7.5 mill rate drop.
Drop.
It really depends on the market that you're in, right? And
Right.
how your 5-year cycle falls. But yes, you make a very good point.
So except for that 1 year, every other year, the mill rate went down after the reval was completed. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Correct.
I think that's
But the-
important for people when they see this chart to
Absolutely, and I
understand.
can put that on our
Yeah.
website. I haven't released it as of yet. It just went to the council
Okay,
for their
thank you.
information. But you're right, the town council did not vote to do this. The manager did not tell me to do this. I certainly didn't.
Okay.
It's all by state statute, and we're in this cycle, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Evans?
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of ask a couple questions, and I'm hoping will clear up some possible misconceptions that people have about how this is going to affect their actual tax bill. Looking at perhaps like my house being a raised ranch, going up 32%, that does not mean, like assuming these numbers after you do your, evaluations and they kind of pan out where you've have them now, that does not mean that when I get my tax bill, it's going to go up 32%, correct?
That does not mean that. You are correct. You are
Okay.
correct. We are still in the valuation process. We're getting closer to the end of the valuation process, but it's really as simple as if you look at an equation of A times B equals C. A is the assessment, B is the budget, right? That's the other big component in this equation. That's how the town's going to determine the mill rate or the money to be raised by taxes based on the assessment levy. And C is the taxes in that equation. So yeah, no, I've had people, and I understand, right? I work with this every day. It's not as nearly as entertaining as emergency management. However, not everybody, you know, a lot of people took the old mill rate, multiplied it by their new assessment, even though in the letter we specifically said, please don't do that because we don't want to, you know, upset people. The new mill rate will make a big difference. You know, where we finally end with the 3 components of the grand list will make a big difference. So I ask people to just, you know, be patient and wait till we get to the budget.
So there might be some changes or increases or decreases, well, increases, because of the 38% is a ranch in average, and the conventional is 22%. So there may be some movement.
There'll be some
with what
change in
people's-
the overall tax value that people are seeing.
But the true thing that is going to depend on our taxes and what might change is what? Is
It's the mill rate.
is the mill rate.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Ms. Huda, for coming in this evening and explaining and giving the opportunity for our residents to get a hold of you if they have any questions. I know for a fact that if you do go onto the town website, onto the vision, there is plenty of question and answers there. I read it this afternoon, and it's very interesting to see how everything is explained, and if anyone has any more questions, they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. We would
Appreciate you.
happily talk to any resident that has questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
allowing
Have a
me to
good
come in.
evening. Thank you for coming. And moving on to item number 7, public input for any items on the agenda. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council concerning any items on the agenda? Asking again, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to the council on any items on the agenda? Anyone from the public? Last time? Not seeing any, we'll move on. Item number 8 is adoption of minutes from the previous meeting. Councilor Kabasky, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the regular Town Council meeting of November 7th, 2022.
Is there a second? Is there any additions, changes, deletions, corrections? Councilor Evans.
No changes, deletions, corrections. I just wanted to make note that everyone has an updated version of the minutes from what was in our packet. So that's the one that we need to vote on tonight.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay. Thank you. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. The motion carries. Moving on to item number 9, communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Councilor Lydecker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am the liaison to the Board of Ed. I do believe on tomorrow night's agenda, there is going to be a presentation about student enrollment. I invite all members of the public to be able to either attend in person or be able to watch the meeting. As we know, student enrollment can affect the budget. So again, we're talking a lot about money this evening. But so, you know, you can watch it in person. It is, I believe, room C at Timothy Edwards. You can also watch it live on channel 14, or you can just Google, and you'll be able to find the link for the video. You can also watch it a day or two later, but I do invite the entire public to watch that because I think that will be a very informative presentation on the student enrollment.
Thank you, Councilor Lydecker. Councilor Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of start a conversation as the liaison to the Social Justice Racial Equity Commission and kind of provide an update of where that commission is and also discuss how we might move forward in that commission as well. So that group has had a very difficult time meeting. Currently there are 5 appointed commissioners. There are 4 seats still remaining open on that commission. In order for them to meet, they have to have every member present to have a quorum. And when this commission was created in June of 2021, so close to a year and a half ago. The ordinance was created in such a way to be as non-political as possible, in giving enough balance to the membership, in that it would not be seen, as a political group. My question to the council is if we might consider revisiting the ordinance and looking at adjusting our membership of how we make up that commission to allow it to be able to meet and be a full commission. Currently, the Republican Town Committee has not brought forward more than one member for that commission. And I think that if we really want to make an impactful difference for South Windsor, then we need to reconsider how that commission is going to move forward. So my ask of the council is if there's an interest that we move forward with opening and discussing the ordinance and looking at the membership.
Councilor Evans, could you have that ordinance sent to the council members for our review?
Yes.
And then we can get back to you on any suggestions that we may have?
Yep, so I have them on hand tonight in case anyone had any specific questions. That was my ask of our clerk of the council, was that after our meeting tonight that she emailed them to you. I think that, I didn't really want to myself say what I think it should be. I really think that we as a council, if everyone can email any thoughts that you have on how the makeup of this commission might be, just for reference, as far as how it is currently made up, and I can tell you off the top of my head, but it is 2 members who shall be Republicans, 2 members who shall be Democrats, 2 members who are not affiliated with the Republican Party but appointed by the Republican Party, and 2 members who are not affiliated with the Democratic Party but appointed by the Democratic Party. So that is its current makeup. And the other thing is that we do have, other parties in town or potential parties in town that should have a seat at the table as well. And I think that it's important that we're inclusive of that. Additionally, and as well for the community, if anyone from the community wants to provide their input or insight on how this commission might look, I'd love for you to email me. My email is Erica with a C, .evans@southwindsor-ct.gov. If it's easier, you can go to the town council or on the South Windsor government website, you can go to the town council page. It will list my name. If you click on there, it will send an email directly to me.
And anyone who may be interested in joining, they can contact you and you'll get them connected with the right political party for them to be appointed, even though they may not be an affiliation of that party.
Absolutely. Even if
Yes.
after this discussion tonight,
Yeah.
if someone feels that they would be a good member for this commission and they want to reach out, then I absolutely encourage that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Evans.
Thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. Just want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission had a meeting last Tuesday, and they approved 2 site plans, one of them for a new, expansion of a new 30,000 square foot building at the scrap metal facility on Nutmeg Road North, and an expansion of the solar farm on Rye Street, Sullivan Avenue, Rye Street, at the New Way Tobacco facility.
Great.
That's,
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any other reports? Not seeing any. Moving on to item number 10, reports from committees. No reports from any committees. We'll be moving on to item 11. 11A, please, and that would be Councilor Gamble, and he is not here. So Deputy Mayor King, please.
That was me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve items 11A, 1 through 11. Wait a minute, let me read this right. How far are we going?
Yeah, 11A.
12, okay.
Yeah.
So A1 through A12 as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Anyone being removed, changed, deleted? Not seeing any, hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No one's opposed. The motion carries. Moving on to Councilor Paterna for 11B. Second readings, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a motion to approve items 11B1 through 11B3 as the second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there any changes to the second reading? Not hearing any. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 11C is miscellaneous, there is none. Now we're on item 12, unfinished business, there is none. Moving on to 13A, which was Mary Huda, we moved her up in the agenda. 13B, Counselor Kozakowski, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13B, resolution approving Town Manager Michael Maniscalco to accept and execute a steep grant from the state of Connecticut for the reconstruction of Kennedy Road. Whereas the town of South Windsor has been awarded a grant from the state of Connecticut Small Town Economic Assistance Program in the amount of $478,100 for the reconstruction of Kennedy Road. And be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council authorizes Town Manager Michael Maniscalco on behalf of the town of South Windsor accept a 2022 Connecticut Steep Grant in the amount of $478,100 for the reconstruction of Kennedy Road. And be it further resolved that Town Manager Mike Maniscalco is hereby authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain said 2022 steep grant with the state of Connecticut. Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Is there any comments, discussions that would you like to ask Mr. Maniscalco? Councilor Paterno. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Leidecker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regards to this, what do we believe the full cost of the reconstruction of Kennedy Road will be?
I think it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of around $500,000. We've got some additional road funding available, so we don't have the exact quotes in hand yet, but it should be around in that neighborhood.
Okay, so it doesn't seem like, it's not like the town is anticipated to match this, or it's going to be close to $1 million.
There's a match requirement, but it's not it's not a 50-50 match. It's a smaller dollar amount.
So when you say a match requirement out of the 478, are you talking maybe we put 20% in? Like, what is that?
I believe the total project cost is around $500,000, so whatever, it's going to be $22,000, something like that.
Okay, so we're just essentially going to be paying the difference, but it's not,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Councilor Kozakowski?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank Town Manager for pursuing this grant. I just want to just have a better understanding why Kennedy Road was the target for this grant application.
Yeah, so we did announce that we were going to be seeking a steep grant application to the public as well as the council. We received no interest from anybody to apply for anything. Staff and myself sat down and we were looking at different potential projects that were coming across our dashboard that basically we didn't have funding to do. We were made aware that Kennedy Road unfortunately has some pretty significant issues with the industrial traffic around it. And as a result, it's going to be, it's in a condition that it's failing that would cause some major issues to FedEx, as well as the future development for the property directly next door to it. And we felt that since it is a town-owned road, it would be our responsibility at some point in the not-too-distant future to actually address the condition of that road. And we thought this was an opportunity to do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. Item 13C, discussion item, draft resolution regarding the purchasing exemption. Mr. Maniscalco, please.
Thank you. So I think as all of you guys remember, over the last few meetings, we've talked just briefly on the surface level about exemptions to purchasing requirements and trying to figure out a way to make our purchasing processes work within the charter. Our charter is very limiting in terms of what it allows us to do for purchasing. So currently, the way it's written, anything of $5,000 or more needs to go out for a request for proposals unless determined by the council it's in the best interest of the town. So through conversations with the town attorney and myself, we had originally thought possibly doing an ordinance, but felt that was too long-term restrictive and wouldn't really fit in the nature of what the charter is requiring. And as a result, we kind of came down on this idea of possibly putting a resolution together that would be passed by the council that on an annual basis to say it's in the best interest of the town to exempt bidding over $25,000. And really what's happened is because of inflation and because of the cost of things, almost everything is over $5,000 now. And if we're going to go and have to bid everything, it's going to cost more in staff time. It's leading to us losing opportunities. It's not always as time effective, and it's causing some pretty significant issues for us from a purchasing perspective. And as a result, we were bringing a number of projects to all of you, seeking exemptions from those bidding requirements. So this would essentially waive the requirement for bidding moving forward from $25,000 up to $25,000 for the rest of the fiscal year. The idea is that on an annual basis, when you pass the budget, we're going to bring this resolution to you again along with the budget. So this will become kind of like a regular activity that we're going to look at on a regular basis. And we're going to say, okay, you know, maybe $25,000 is too high, or maybe it's too low, or we need to change that in some way, shape, or form. Additionally, it references a couple statutes that allow for the town to purchase off of regional purchasing agencies, which we believe we have the statutory ability to, but we don't really have the charter nod to be able to go do that. So we thought it would benefit us to put those in there to get your nod on that as well. So that's the idea of buying off of like a regional purchasing agency or like the Capital Region Council of Governments. So we do that sort of activity, buying off of some of their bids. And then also purchasing off of state and municipal contracts where other municipalities or other states have actually already bid something out and they're willing to extend their contracted price to our municipality. So both of those are statutorily already allowed, but we thought it would make a lot more sense to have that in here to get kind of the council's buy-in on those ideas as well. So that's kind of the resolution and what it looks like in front of you at this point. The dollar threshold is $25,000 is what we threw in there, but you know, everything is up for conversation. So.
Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco. Anyone have any questions for our town manager concerning this? Councilor Lydecker, please.
I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm talking way too much this evening.
No, you're doing great.
So this makes me very nervous. The charter is our founding piece of government in the town, which is where we get all of our authority from. I feel like we're attempting to usurp the authority of our charter, which makes me concerned. Pre-COVID, we had a group that I don't remember if it was just a small group of the council, but we talked about opening the charter. Why are you asking us to do this versus recommending that we open the charter? Because technically you could get the same thing if we reopen the charter, theoretically.
Okay, but the timeline associated with reopening the charter is probably 12 months plus before you could even get some answer even to move something forward. We have an immediate need today. Additionally, I have had this conversation with a number of the council members in this room, specifically related to exemption requests that we've brought forward, and it was very clearly stated that we didn't want to have more exemption requests brought forward to us. We wanted you to find out some way that we could work within the charter to make this work for the community.
Correct, but the exemption requests that come forward to us keeps us in the loop as to where our town citizens' money is going. We give you carte blanche to now go up to $25,000. We don't have that same ability to manage the requests, the funding, the questions, the transparency. So again, I think I would prefer having town business brought in front of this group to discuss these exemption requests versus kind of behind the scenes, up to a certain amount it's done. So why can't we do this simultaneously? Like, you want to ask us on a year-by-year basis for a certain exemption. I think $25,000 is too much, but why can't we do both? I mean, if the charter is going to take us 12 months to maybe open and evaluate and vote on, et cetera, why aren't we doing both at the same time? So by the time the charter does come back to us for changes, we can then extinguish this potential yearly agreement for what is presented as changes in the charter.
So if you would like to do charter revision, the council itself would need to pass, I believe it would be some type of a resolution to set up a charter revision commission that would then be provided with charges from this council of certain pieces within the charter that you would need to look, that commission would need to look at. They would be put on a timeline that they would have to do research in their review of the charter. They also could look at other things. They would come back to you with a report. It would be up to the council then to decide which parts of the report they would want to accept or decline, and then that would go on a referendum ballot for the entire community to vote on. So 12 months is a very tight timeline, to be honest. It's probably more on the higher end of, as the town attorney just said, 12 to 18, but.
I understand that, but what you're asking us now is a yearly blanket, check per every exemption that comes through us. I think I'd rather do the simultaneous process, because 18 months is gonna go by regardless, but I don't wanna come back here in 2 years saying, oh my goodness, the budget's a little out of control, this wasn't working the way we thought, and we've lost the 18 years on potentially reopening the charter for some of these outdated items.
I think that's an unfair characterization of what we're looking to do, in all honesty. I mean, we're facing a climate where $5,000 is not really workable. Inflation has gotten to a point where we can't do that. For example, we were about ready to lose an opportunity to get a sidewalk done outside here, and instead we had to come to the council to get you guys to approve it. We heard a lot of members of the council saying, why are we having to do this all the time? Why are we having to do this all the time? Because we're missing opportunities. Unfortunately, inflation has gotten to a point, and this is something I don't control, none of us in the room do, where $25,000, in all honesty, is not really that much money for a $30 million municipal corporation that's trying to run and do business every day. So it's becoming a challenge for us. If you want to still review everything that's, that needs an exemption, we certainly can do that too, but that was not what the direction of the entire council was. So that's why we were asked to bring this forward.
But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe in the past year, we've had maybe 5 of those exemptions coming up to us. So if we're authorizing up to $25,000 and we could have had 5 exemptions, that's $125,000. That's a good chunk of the budget when it comes to what our citizens are paying. So maybe I'd be more comfortable with this if we had a more reasonable number in my estimation, but as it is right now, the fact that we're not willing to do both, potentially have discussions about opening the charter or maybe a different number, this resolution as is in front of me concerns me.
Well, I would also remind you, they're all approved items that you guys approved in the budgetary process. So it's not like you haven't already seen them and approved them through the budgetary process.
Understood. I'm still gonna have the same concerns.
That's
This
fine.
is taking away from the authority of our governing document, and it makes me uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Laudecker. Councilor Kozakowski?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, how long has that $5,000 figure been in the charter?
I want to say the 60s at some point.
You can estimate, all right, okay, so let's say
69.
1962, 50 years ago, no, 60 years ago. What would $5,000 look like in the 1962 budget?
Wow.
Oh, God, I have no idea.
And it's more of a rhetorical
lot of
question.
money.
It's a good question, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is adjusting for inflation probably wouldn't be a bad idea to help, help with the efficient running of our, of our town government.
I could buy a new car for $2,500 in 1962, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's true. It's long before my time.
Yeah.
But Councilor Leidecker's comments are not on deaf ears. I think we do have a responsibility to have a sense of what we're spending money on. And we do have that $5,000 cap with us now, and, you know, and we behave within our authority and our responsibility to review those exemptions. That said, I think we can find a number that could be appropriate, an adjustment in that 5,000, you know, scale it up to adjust for inflation over the last 60 years. That I think we have to go through that kind of exercise to see what kind of number would make sense. And then all that said, I am also a little uncomfortable, you know, if doing any sort of resolution like this or activity like this that goes against the charter. So I just want 100% assurance that we are, number one, not violating the charter, and number two, not having the appearance of any such activity that would violate the charter.
Thank you, Councilor Kozakowski. Deputy Mayor King?
Yeah, the only questions that I had, and it could be very naive questions, but I'll ask them nevertheless. The Commissioner of Administrative Services, i.e. the Commissioner. So who is that individual exactly?
Services. That's the State Department of Administrative Services.
Okay.
So the first paragraph of that resolution talks about the state purchasing contracts. And the state statute that's listed there, 4A-53A, specifically says, notwithstanding any charter provisions of a municipality, municipalities can combine with the state and do state purchasing under a state purchasing blanket contract through the Department of Administrative Services. So that's what the town's been doing in certain circumstances for purchasing. The second statute there, 7-148V, talks about councils of government or purchasing cooperatives or other other municipalities that have contracts that can open their contracts so that the town of South Windsor can participate with those purchasing agreements. And that, again, that statute specifically says that notwithstanding any of your charter provisions, the town's allowed to do that. So those first two paragraphs are specifically exempted from the charter provisions that any municipality has. And so you don't have to worry about the $5,000 cap in those two circumstances. The last section is really designed to just deal with what the town manager's been saying about the constraints that the current $5,000 cap has on his ability or the town's ability to contract timely and efficiently. And we tried to limit that to a resolution that would only last through the end of this fiscal year, so that you can take a look at either the charter or at the numbers. But more importantly, that you know, your charter does allow, as you've done on a couple of occasions, for the town to determine that that particular expenditure that's over $5,000 can be waived, right? The bidding process and the obligations of the town to go to a sealed bid process for over $5,000 contracts can be waived in certain circumstances if you feel that it's not in the best interest of the town, you know, to do so, if it's in the best interest of the town to waive the bid. And so that's what they've done on a couple of occasions. And what the town manager is asking to do in this resolution is just to say for the balance of this year, up that cap to $25,000 so he can get some jobs done without having to come to you every other project, so to speak. Certainly understand the concerns about the statutory or the charter cap. And I do think that we've tried to work within the charter cap with this resolution and limit it to those instances where your determination by this resolution is that the $5,000 cap is a hindrance and an impediment to the efficient management of the town. That being said, it's only for the balance of the year, and you can look at it again next year. Or you can take an opportunity to open the charter and look at it more holistically. So it's really a stopgap measure for the next, essentially 6 months. Not even 6 months, 4 months.
Yeah. And we just did a little quick research looking back. $5,000 from 1962 would be $50,000.
So that was gonna, actually, that would have been my 3A question, just because I figured it would be a lot higher than 25 Gs.
Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up as far as the commissioner. So who decides who that individual is?
The Commissioner of Administrative Services?
Yes.
That's a governor's appointment.
Okay, so the governor appoints that individual. Just, I just want to put all of that out on Front Street so that somebody doesn't say, oh, is Mike also doing this job and this person's doing that job?
No.
So that's an appointed position by the governor that takes care of that.
It's the State Department of Administrative Services. It's the state purchasing agency and arm for the whole state of Connecticut. And when that agency purchases things, it often opens it up to municipalities to join in that purchasing agreement.
Okay. Through you, Madam Mayor, the last question I had is 1, 2, 3, 4. Whereas where it has town's $5,000 cap on purchases, town manager Michael Maniscalco, do we need to have his name there? Say, for example, and I'm just thinking, just because some might get crazy, all of a sudden somebody says, well, he's not here anymore. So that resolution is void.
Doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to be in there.
Okay, I think for me, notwithstanding everybody else, I would prefer it just says town manager, no matter who that individual is, you know, and that, because it's also, be it resolved, authorizes Michael Maniscalco, and somebody could easily come in there and say no, because that individual isn't.
It's referenced.
So it's more the position than the name is my focus.
That's correct. It's the position. That's right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to make it clear with Councilor Kozakowski, that was my father who could buy a car for $2,500, not me. Okay. I'm sorry that Councilor Gamble's not here tonight, because he was the one who had voiced the most concern about making too many exceptions and too many waivers. So I want to hear from him, because I think he had a lot to say about that. He was concerned. And then secondly, I think if I'm reading this right, we're still going to approve the projects. We're just changing the process of how you can get the project done. So essentially, we're still going to see if there's new sidewalks to be put somewhere. We're still going to be involved in that.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, you're not, you still have a responsibility during the budgetary process that we would bring those budgets forward.
Okay.
You would see what's in those department line items and all that, you know, everything that you've done every other year.
Right.
It's just the process that we go through for purchasing the equipment, getting the projects actually done is different.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I almost called you Frankie. Councilor Kubowski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I totally understand Councilor Leidecker's concern regarding opening up the, doing this way versus opening up the charter. But one of the questions I have is, and I've heard this numerous times, I just want to make sure it's correct. If we open the charter, regardless of any commission that we may put in place to look at certain items, doesn't that open up the charter to changes for anything that somebody may want to bring forward?
Everything.
That's correct. Right.
Yeah, that would be concerning for me, because I think it opens it up to a lot of different items. And I would prefer, totally understanding Councilor Leidecker's concerns, I would prefer to do it this way versus going through opening up the charter. And now we're looking at possibly different changes that we just didn't anticipate going into this.
Thank you, Councilor Kubowski. Councilor Evans?
We're just going to carry on for what Councilor Kubowski was saying with the charter, is I think that, you know, I'm very much in favor of us looking into opening the charter. I think it's something we should do. I think right now, seeing as you honored our 1-year anniversary here, 18 months from now, all 9 of us may not be the same people sitting at this council. So I think that it is important that we, at this next November meeting is when we need to open our charter and look at these revisions for the future, so that we can have a full-term council and committee or subcommittee working on those revisions for our charter.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Getting back to Councilor Leidecker.
Yes, just one follow-up question. I heard the attorney say that this is kind of like a stopgap for the next 4 or 5 months or so. Mr. Maniscalco, do you have a list of projects coming up that you have in mind for this? And if so, can you provide us that list of things you might come to us with an exemption request over the next 6 months so we can see what the total cost might be?
I don't have one right now today, but I can certainly get something together.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Maniscalco, this being on as a discussion item, I would appreciate the opportunity for all as council members to be able to get back to you on their concerns or their thoughts, especially Councilor Gamble, because he's not here this evening. And it may not be the next meeting in December, but it may be the meeting after that, that if this is going to go forward or come back as a discussion item to get a consensus if we're going to go forward with this resolution or not. So give us the opportunity to work on this resolution with you, and then we can move forward accordingly with bringing it back as a discussion item to get a consensus to move it forward to a resolution for approval or not.
Sure.
I ask that of you.
Yeah, I think we could just plan to have it as a discussion item at our next meeting. That's fine.
Okay. How's that sound to everyone? Good plan? Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco and Attorney Carella. Moving on to 13D, Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Human Relations Commission effective November 2nd, 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Stephanie Weintraub from the Human Relations Commission effective November 2nd, 2022, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thank you to Stephanie Weintraub for the time she has dedicated to serving her community by her membership on the Human Relations Commission.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you, Ms. Weintraub, for your time and dedication that you've given to the Human Relations Commission, I'm sorry. Councilor Evans, 13E, please.
13E, resolution approving the 8 refunds, the total of said refunds being $5,122.26. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of property taxes to 8 South Windsor taxpayers, the total of said refunds being $5,122.26, and as more fully described on attachment Exhibit A.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Councilor Lopez, 13F.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving the 8 refunds, the total of said refunds being $16,231.85. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves a refund of property taxes to 8 South Windsor taxpayers, the total of said refunds being $16,231.85, and as more fully described on attachment Exhibit B.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not hearing any, the motion carries. Item 14, passages of ordinance, we have none. Item 15, any public input on any matter? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any matter to the council? Any public input on any matter? Going for a third time, any public input on any matter that they would like to speak to the council on? Good evening, Mr. Edwards. Yes, it is. One more time. Hit it again. There you go. It's on.
All right. Good evening. Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. Quick heads up. The feed is not working, or it's very intermittent on Facebook, on G Media. Just cuts in and out. It's a very painful meeting to listen to. I'm not sure if it has an issue to do with Cox as well, but I don't have Cox. I just stream. So anyway, I wanted to just basically touch base or speak in regards to Councilor Evans' comment about the Social Justice Commission. I've spoken at length before in multiple meetings. It's a duplicate commission. If we're going to do anything, or if the council is going to do anything, let's just get rid of it and actually make the Human Relations Commission something useful. If you look back over the years, it doesn't appear that the Human Relations Commission actually ever meets. There's never minutes, or if there's minutes or an agenda, it's always canceled. So I would suggest, and as I've suggested in the past, why don't we actually make our commissions useful that we have? We still created these new ones, but maybe it's time now. It's not an election year. Just admit it was a bad idea. But to a greater point, why would Republicans put up people? We've tried. you know, we're just not getting interest. We've asked. And why would people want to be put up for a commission to sit here in front of this body here and have five people say no summarily? You know, basically what it sounds like is that the town council is looking for the right to just pick and choose who they want. But that's not how it goes in a community. There's equal voices. People just aren't interested. I hate to tell you, we have other commissions that are very important. There's a Human Relations Commission, Stephanie Weintraub, who just resigned tonight. You know, from everything I've heard, she had a great working relationship. The council here doesn't seem to, you know, put too much credit into everything she's done, which is a shame. We have other people for other commissions that we put up have been summarily rejected. Take a look at yourself. I mean, there was a counselor who tried to put in some gaslighting piece in the South Windsor patch that, oh no, you know, we're not really denying people. But unfortunately, our actions speak louder than your words do. So stop picking and choosing. If you want people to serve, actually accept the people that we put up to serve. And if you want people to actually join the commission, don't bash other people in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Happy Thanksgiving. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the council on any matter? Not seeing any. Moving on to item 16, any communications from the council? I'm sorry, Councilor Evans.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would just like to reiterate for anyone who was having trouble with the news feed earlier or may not have listened to the earlier part of the meeting, that we are looking for members of the Social Justice Racial Equity Commission. Please reach out to the Republican Town Committee because they have 3 seats that are open that they have failed to fill. If I find it very disappointing from our last person to speak during public input that if the Republicans in the town of South Windsor are not open and willing to participate and be a part of the Social Justice Racial Equity Commission, then that makes me even more impassioned to make this commission work. Because if people don't feel value in this social justice, racial equity for South Windsor, then there's something wrong. And I call to South Windsor to please join this commission. And if not, this council will make sure that that commission moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Leidecker?
Yes, thank you. I just kind of want to reiterate through our meeting today that interestingly enough, there were 11 Republican nominations for a first reading that I believe we passed unanimously with no discussion, no comments, no removals. So I just kind of want to address and, you know, redirect people to the fact that did occur during tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Leidecker. Deputy Mayor King?
I just want to say thank you to the people that are out there collecting our leaves. I really don't, yes, I'm the deputy mayor and all the other stuff that comes with it, but at the end of the day, I am a member of this community, and there are other members of this community that are putting in work, regardless of political affiliation. And I have driven by several times. My house is on Ellington Road, and I've going up and down the streets, whether it's picking up my kids from school or whatever, and there are dudes, and I'm sure there's some females out there too, that are out there, 20-degree weather, and I had a late night the other night. Don't worry about what I was doing, but I came back, and it was pitch black out there, and they were out there grinding. And I said to myself, I wonder if they got my leaves, because they've been out there for a minute. And they were gone. Regardless of political affiliation, yes, I know they're compensated, I get that. But I appreciate, because sometimes I don't think that we do say thank you enough to the people that are out there, even though they may be paid, we're not. Let that be clear first. But more importantly, for those cats that are out there missing their families, maybe had to put their kids to bed early, you know, they're in the street, they could be getting hit, You know, I thought about that to myself the other night when I was driving on some of our roads, because it's up and down, and if you're not paying attention, and I just wanted to say thank you to them. So if they're watching or they replayed a video or one of you students puts that in the paper, please let them know that those individuals are appreciated. And if you don't have your leaves out, don't be mad at them. You should have saw the time. We brought it up in our last meeting. Go to the website, find out when it is, because those guys are out there and they are doing the job that we've asked them to do that not a lot of towns have. That's a pleasure that South Windsor also has, to get your leaves collected. And I just wanted to say thank you, because I do appreciate the fact that I saw them on the way in tonight, and I was like, it's 37 degrees, not this cat. But they were out there getting it done. And so thank you for that. Regardless of their situation, they said, we are members of this town, we're taking care of our town, and so I just wanted to say thank you from a fellow town member.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. I'm glad you brought that up, because they are hustling to get the leaves picked up, seeing that we may have a snowstorm this weekend, and they would have to change out their trucks from leaf collection to snow plowing. So they're hustling over the next couple of days and getting prepared for the snow, of which I'm sure Mr. Maniscalco, our department, is all set, ready to go, and we're good to go for street services and public works and everything. Thank you, everyone, and we'll move now to item 17, which is an executive session. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to invite the town manager, Michael Maniscalco, as well as the assistant town manager, Ms. Perry, and assistant town manager, Mr. Roberts, and the other appropriate personnel that they deem necessary to discuss under CGS 1-206B 210B4 for the purposes of discussing strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation in regard to 460 Miller Road, including the following pending cases. Number 1, the town of South Windsor versus Kristen Lanata. Number 2, Kristen Norton versus the town of South Windsor. Number 3, Luigi Santori, Director of Health, town of South Windsor versus Kristen Norton. And number 4, Kristen Norton, also known as Kristen Lanata, versus town of South Windsor.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. We will be going into executive session and adjourning our meeting from there. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Be safe and stay warm during this storm.